was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Whistle Talk. Mike D, the referee, joining you tonight from a beautiful New Jersey day. Finally, we had the spring day today. Got out and played a little, well, my cousin likes to call it whack fuck, but it's golf. But yeah, I was more on the whack fuck stage today of hitting it and cursing a couple times and then following the ball. But I got a chance to do that today, so I was excited to get out there. So tonight we have a pretty cool episode, something a little bit different. You may have seen me post on the Facebook page about the Continental Football League. So tonight we have joining us the commissioner, Mr. Mike Kelly. Mike, how are you doing, sir?
Good, Michael D. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to talk to some folks in Jersey. It's been a while.
Yeah. So Mike's been around a little bit for the Jersey folk. Mike was head coach at Widener University, just across the river in PA for a number of years. But Mike's been around. But Mike's got a resume that's pretty legit and pretty nice from all different levels. But tonight we are going to talk about the Continental Football League. And again, I posted about it, and take a look at that little YouTube blurb that's on there. It's about 19 minutes long, but it's pretty interesting stuff, and we're going to kind of dive into that tonight. Before we get into the crux of our episode, I got to remind everybody, do those things and hit those likes, hit those thumbs up, those thumbs down, those middle fingers, all those fun things for me. Let's get the word out there, what we're doing, officials, coaches, football fans, just get the good word out there. So tonight's really going to be an interesting one for especially my folks down in Texas that listen, and people that are across the border up north in the Canadian area, because as we dive into the show, you're going to see how the Continental Football League is kind of encompassing, well, a number of different rules, especially in the fourth quarter, which we're going to talk about. So, Mike, why don't we start off with tell everybody about Continental Football League, what you and Manny got rolling here.
Well, Manny was involved with a group that was a little bit disjointed over a year ago. They called themselves the International Football Alliance. And Manny put a team together in the Ohio Valley outside of Pittsburgh. And Manny and I have been together. We've known each other since 1988. I actually watched Manny kick. I coached against him when he was in college. Just a little side note about Manny Matsakis, which will be interesting for you folks in Jersey. Manny is the last straight-on kicker drafted in the National Football League, and he was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles.
Ooh.
So there's a little trivia for you there. And so as we were talking about what he was doing with this other league, it brought back memories of me being a kid in Connecticut. And back in the 60s, they had the Continental Football League, and basically it was farm teams, taxi squads for the NFL and AFL teams. So in my hometown of Waterbury, Connecticut, we had the Waterbury Orbits, and they had the same uniform as the New York Jets. Would go down to those games, and there was that community feel to it. You had your own local, heroes that were out there playing. And and so many people don't have the opportunity or the wherewithal anymore to go to a National Football League game, or across the border to go to a Canadian Football League game. So we're looking to serve underserviced communities and bring back that local feel and give kids an opportunity that otherwise they weren't going to have. So as Manny and I talked about this, and things started to fall apart in that other league, he had beaten his first three opponents 166-0. All right, and now nobody wanted to play him. Teams were dropping him off the schedule, and Barstool Sports picked up on it. and it became a national thing that he had beaten these teams 166-0. And Manny runs a very unique offense. He was the offensive coordinator at Hofstra when Wayne Corbett played up there. And obviously these other teams, they couldn't adapt to it, and Manny did a better job of managing his roster. So now he's out. He doesn't have anybody to play. But the beauty was they didn't lose any money, okay? Because he had a financial structure that was solid. And he and I had been talking about this all the way through. And as I conveyed to him about the Continental Football League and, how nostalgic and emotional, to be quite honest with you, thinking about my dad taking me to games and meeting my uncle and my cousins there. And it was a big deal. And, and I said, we could fill a void that nobody's addressing. Because if you look at the craziness of college football right now, 43% of the kids that go into the transfer portal have nowhere to go. They lose their scholarship. They don't have a roster spot. Many of them don't want to go down to another division, and they've lost their opportunity. Well, let's fill that void. Let's give these kids an opportunity to play, and that's what we're doing. Think of us as AA minor league baseball. Same type of approach. So we started to put this thing together, and we actually investigated how the European soccer leagues, function and finance their teams, and how they sell a portion of the team to the fan base. So you have a hook in that community. So we're registered with the Security and Stock Exchange, and fans can actually buy into the team and be an owner. And as we grow and the value of our clubs increase, you'll actually be able to make money off of this stock by being an owner in your own local team. So that's the premise of it right there.
So with the ownership aspect, you're kind of for people around here, Green Bay Packers-esque.
Yeah. Green Bay Packer-esque. I coached in the Canadian Football League for a long time. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, same exact type of model. But they can't, those teams in Canada, those fans aren't making money off of being involved in that. And Edmonton used to be like that, but now they have a private owner. But we want to have roots in the community. We don't want to just be, a team that was there and then they just take off. We want to get ownership within the community. We want these kids to come in to the community and be part of the community, and to really engage in it. And we're actually in discussions. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but we're actually in discussions because so many kids are not paying attention to the trades. And so we're talking to groups about get these kids to play and get them into an apprenticeship. That way, if football doesn't work out for them anymore, they decide not to go back to college, then we've got them in an apprenticeship. They can get into the trades and they could be making a six-figure salary working in the trades. So we're trying to hit all the bases here.
So what I pulled up onto the screen here is the COFLfootball.com, the website here for the Continental Football League. And you can see right on the screen, 58 days, 47 minutes, 42 seconds, counting down until the initial inaugural kickoff, or re-inaugural, because it's the kind of almost the reboot of the name of the league, but getting it started in 58 days. So now 8 teams you guys got going on, right?
Yes. And 5 of them are original charter teams from the Continental Football League. We have the Ohio Valley Ironmen, which was they were associated with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We've got the Michigan Arrows, who were associated with the Lions. The Indianapolis Capitals were an original team. They were the last champions of the Continental Football League. The San Antonio Toros played the Indianapolis Capitals in the last championship game, which by all accounts, if you read about it, it was one of the greatest football games ever played. They went into 3 overtimes to decide the champion. So we've got them back. And then we've brought in 3 teams that are this is first generation for them. The Cincinnati Dukes, the Texas Syndicate, which will play in Pflugerville right outside of Austin, and the Tall City Black Gold. And that Tall City is the nickname for Midland, because if you're out there in West Texas, you're driving in nothing but prairies, and then all of a sudden you see these tall buildings sticking up. So it's going to be in Midland, Texas, the Tall City Black Gold, and obviously the black gold is a reference to oil. So we're not looking to compete with anybody. We don't have anybody to compete against. We're looking to give kids an opportunity to, number one, we're going to put them on marketing agreements. Okay, so they're not on a contract. It's a marketing agreement. So that's the same thing as NIL. So it shouldn't affect their NCAA eligibility. So if a kid gets lost in the transfer portal, comes here, plays for us, gets 6 to 7, maybe 8 games on film, now he has an opportunity to go back to the NCAA. Okay, and then obviously we'd like to be developmental and opportunity for kids that maybe weren't at a school that NFL scouts normally would go to. They just got bypassed. Maybe they've developed late, and give them an opportunity to showcase what they can do in front of NFL and Canadian Football League scouts.
And I like that you bring up the Canadian scouts, because that's going to kind of lead into our conversation with talking about the continental shift, talking about the fourth quarter, with utilizing the Canadian Football League rules in the fourth quarter, which in turn is going to create a more fast-paced game. And like you mentioned, now you got more eyes, more exposure for these kids playing football from all the different leagues. And I know before you and I initially talked, you were talking about how the Canadian Football League loves this because now they can see their style of football on film, which they typically don't get from the U.S. games.
Right. Look, I'm on an NFL pension, but I also spent 8 years in the Canadian Football League. I was a head coach and general manager up there, as well as being an offensive coordinator. And I worked in pro personnel in the National Football League. And I found 2 things. Okay. One is, in the National Football League, the scouts would get caught up in the minutia of the game. They started looking at the difference of how it's played, and they really had a difficult time in evaluating how a young man's skill sets would translate into the NFL. In the CFL, all those guys think, oh, it's an NFL player, he must be a great player. Well, yeah, they are great players. Anybody that's playing and getting paid is a great player. I love it when I hear fans say, that guy stinks. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. He's one of the best players in the world if he's getting paid to play. But what would happen is the CFL scouts would say, oh, this guy, he's going to make an instant impact on us, and he's not. Okay, because he doesn't fit the skill sets. I can name off a litany of quarterbacks that have gone up there, Heisman Trophy winners, the whole thing, and they couldn't play the game. It didn't fit their style. I talk about Ray Lewis, great middle linebacker for the Baltimore Ravens. He wouldn't have been a middle linebacker in the Canadian Football League. They would have destroyed him because he would have had to be in coverage too often and would have gotten run away from. He would have been a short side of the field, quick defensive end coming off the edge, and he would have been an all-pro doing that.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't have been a middle linebacker. And so the point here is that I've worked in personnel in both leagues, and I saw how people reacted in each league, and we want to give these kids an opportunity to be seen correctly and get evaluated properly. And look, we've got 8 teams. If we have 3 to 5 kids that end up getting invited to we've done our job. We've absolutely done our job. But we're giving these scouts a little different look as to how to evaluate the players now, and the players, that creates more opportunity for them.
And I like this too, because what you're doing, and with that countdown, we're talking about a summer league. We're not talking spring. We're not talking about competing with the NCAA or the NFL games, but this is kind of a standalone league. And it's not just, I mean, the cities that you named, these aren't just any, I'm in bum blank New Jersey. Like it's not that. Like you're talking San Antonio, a place rich in history. You got Michigan, you got Midland, Texas, Permian, the Permian Basin. I mean,
Yep.
Friday Night Lights was that's Friday Night Lights right there. So these aren't just small town things, but it's giving back that small town feeling to them too. So it's kind of doing two different things, and it's getting these kids some great exposure. Let's talk about some of the coaches you guys got for this league. I know one of my favorites all time, having a hot mic on him, Jerry Glanville.
Yeah, yeah, Jerry. You want to talk about a football junkie?
Oh,
Jerry Glanville's the guy. In the dictionary where it says football junkie, they just should put a picture of Jerry Glanville right there. He has more energy than most 25-year-olds, and just loves the game of football. And I've been on the phone with him for up to an hour, and we didn't only just talk about the Continental Football League, but we got into offensive and defensive strategies, and what the quarterback's looking at and how the defense is going to adjust to it, and then how the quarterback reacts to that. And we got into a whole conversation about it, and it was an absolute blast. It was a
yep.
pleasure to talk to somebody at that kind of level. And so he's going to be the defensive coordinator in San Antonio. We have Steve Kaiser is the head coach in Michigan, and if you don't know that name, you probably know a little bit about the 1985 Chicago Bears. So they were pretty good.
They were
They were
okay, yeah,
yeah, I think they lost one game that
yeah.
year, and considered to be one of the top 3 or 4 teams all time in pro football. And Steve was their special teams coordinator. And then he spent years also in player personnel with the Detroit Lions, and he most recently he was the general manager of the Michigan Panthers in the USFL. And so he's going to take over our football operations and head coach with the Michigan Arrows. And he's putting together a staff of guys that have tremendous backgrounds. In Indianapolis, we have the father of the air raid offense, Hal Mumme. Hal and I go way back. When Hal left Valdosta State University to become the head coach at Kentucky, I'm the guy Valdosta State hired to fill Hal's spot. And so he and Mike Leach had left Valdosta to go to Kentucky. We became friends. And of course, Mike Leach, bless his soul, with his personality, absolutely made it a pleasure to see his media scrums each and every time he got in front of a microphone. But Hal is really the creator of the air raid offense, and he's our managing general partner and head coach in Indianapolis. So and these guys are all hiring coaches that really have solid backgrounds, and guys that you'll recognize as the season goes on. But it's pretty cool to have a vision that Manny and I had, put it out there, and then have people say, yeah, this is a good idea. To have these kind of guys with their background in football to say, yeah, we can make this work, and then have them hit the ground running and get after it, is really quite gratifying.
So talking about Hal and Mike Leach, was Hal the original person to have a call sheet this big?
Yeah.
And for those that can't see it, Mike Leach was famed for it on the in the WAC and in Texas Tech of having that index card for a call sheet. Where today you see the NFL guys and they've got like a poster board in front of their face because.
Hey, I worked for Andy Reid with the Eagles. I coached in the Pro Bowl with Andy back in the early 2000s, and I'm the guy that had to draw up that call sheet, and it was insane. I'm just telling you, it's insane.
Yep.
There's well over 200 plays on that call sheet, and some of them you don't have an opportunity to practice during the week, but you better know the scheme. Yep. And so, as an old offensive coordinator in the CFL, I would go into a game with about 65 plays that we had dialed up and ready to go. As a college coach, I cut that down to about 40, but I did have games where we cut it down to 15. Just depending on what we could do and the capabilities of the kids. Mike Leach and Hal Mumme always had only 15 plays.
That's insane.
That's it. And so when I got to Valdosta, I had been the offensive coordinator of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for 5 years previous to that. And I came in and had all pro coaches with me. Okay, I brought a bunch of guys from the CFL down to South Georgia, which probably wasn't a great idea. That in and of itself, Hal's got that Southern drawl and that kind of relaxed, laid back thing, and I'm a wise ass Connecticut, New Englander. So that didn't sell quite as well. But I brought those guys in there, and a couple of the coaches that I had that I carried over, they'd say, well, Hal and Mike would just make up the game plans for the whole season in June. And then we had and I'd be like, what are you talking about? They haven't seen any film. They don't, but that's their way of doing things. And I know for a fact that Mike Leach, at the highest level of college football, went through games where he called one play the entire second half. But he would just make sure, if you saw him writing down on a card, he would mark down each time a kid caught the ball. And if there was a kid that wasn't getting enough balls, he made sure, all right, it's time to go to this one now, because they're starting to fall asleep on him. And so that's how they approached it. And it's a really interesting deal, and nobody's going to argue the fact that Andy Reid has had tremendous success in the National Football League. Okay, but to call a play for Andy takes forever. Red right, A right stop, 322 scat, Y stick lion. That's a long time. And in the Canadian Football League, you don't have that much time because it's only a 20-second clock. And so you got to learn to really, condense how you're calling plays. And I was in the original XFL in 2001 with Galen Hall with the Orlando Rage. I was his offensive coordinator. And I learned so much from Galen also about just keeping things simple and don't make it any more complicated than it already is. And so my experience in the CFL and my experience with Galen Hall were just tremendous in terms of keeping things simple and not getting so overly extended and think so much of yourself that you got to put this volume together in the calling plays. I got a little bit off on track there, but it is what it is, and we've got really good coaches in this league. I think it's gonna that type of coaching is going to help these kids get to where they want to get to that next step.
That's awesome. That's great stuff, and I love the exposure. But now we got to kind of pivot a little bit to more of my specialty. Let's talk some rules. What are you guys doing for officials? How are you guys working with the officiating crews and whatnot?
What we're doing is locally with each team, we're looking, each team is reaching out and finding local 7-man crews. And the response that we're getting from most groups is that they think this is a great opportunity to get an extra 6 to 8 games in before their season starts, get some of their younger officials the opportunity to get more work going into the season, and really work on their communication and how they function and their mechanics through the course of a game. So each team is looking for a local crew to work their games, and I have no question about the integrity of officials and all that. And some people say, well, you can't have somebody get a crew. Yeah, you can. You guys are out there working. You have your own reputations to uphold. You're trying to get better. You're trying to help some kids out. And so that's we're reaching out to from each city to find a group, a crew of 7.
So, and you're saying that each team is going to basically find a crew.
Yep.
It's nice that you have everything with the divisions regionalized, because you're going to have Texas crews that are going to, well, nobody's going to be saying, oh, well, they're a local team when they're all local in that aspect. Yeah. And then looking at the map of the location for the northern teams, they look, I'm guessing off the top of my head, but if you were to draw a circle around it, you maybe have like 150 mile radius of the circle that all the teams are kind of right into.
Yeah, and that's all part of the minor league baseball mentality, is that these other leagues that have all tried to come in and be, they spend a tremendous amount of money on traveling all across the country. Okay. Now, I'm not going to disparage against the UFL, but having everybody practice in one spot and then get in a plane and fly off, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And you're not building community relationships. We want to build those community relationships. And this is a bus league. It's AA minor league baseball. You're going to get on the bus. You're going to play each other home and away. Most of these bus rides are only going to be 2 to 4 or 5 hours, maybe at the most. And so our costs are down. You go in, you play, you get out. And each team is going to have a meal for the other team after they're done playing. So they get on the bus with some food and away they go.
Nice.
And so you don't have high costs. You're starting to create regional rivalries. People can easily go and drive to an away game, really create that feel and that competition within your division. And so we'll play a six game season, home and away, and then number one will play number two at number one for the playoffs of each division. And then the only transportation that we're really going to have that'll be major will be when this year the South is going to fly to the North for the championship game on July 19th.
Very nice. Oh, that's great. I love the small feel of it and the closeness. So that's good stuff. So you got a crew of 7 working 3, possibly 4 games. I know you had mentioned that they're going to have a scrimmage before the season starts against probably a semi-pro.
Inter squad, or maybe pick up a local semi-pro team that wants to play them on the, I think it's the weekend of the 23rd, 24th of May. And then our official season will start on the weekend of 30 and 31.
Yeah. And for most of us, we're not actually on the field officiating in our standard positions, college, high school, and NFL. We're not on the field until August at the earliest for the most part. So now you're getting more exposure, more snaps, more run time, more visualizing and seeing what you need to see to hopefully get the game to slow down for us officials. So it's a great opportunity, like you mentioned, for those younger officials to get some extra snaps and just to get better at the craft that we're trying to continue to grow here.
Yeah, and they'll have film that they can study, going into their seasons now, and I think they're just going to be more comfortable and better prepared going into their normal season.
So now let's talk some rule specifics. Your first 3 quarters, you're going standard NFL rules.
NFL rules, yep. The only modification we'll make is that we're going to use the college rule for the catch. You only have to have 1 foot in. Okay, and go ahead.
I was going to say I want to dive into that 4th quarter now.
Okay, well we're going into the 4th quarter. We're calling it the continental shift, and I'll tell you where I got this from. Several years ago, I think it was 23 or 24, I was the head coach of the U.S. national team playing in the World Championships, and we were playing in Edmonton, Alberta, in the stadium that I was very familiar with. At one time, I actually was the receiver coach of the Edmonton Eskimos, and so that was going back home for me to some degree. And so we took the team, the U.S. national team, to see the Canadian Elite Basketball League. Okay, they're all across the country. It's all Canadian players, and they had 33 players last year sign G League contracts with the NBA. 33. So this level of play was very, very good. And so it's a normal basketball game. I don't, the place, the arena's packed. People are having fun. I got the whole national team there. We all got our USA gear on, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. This is kind of cool. Well, the 4th quarter comes and the lights go out, and then all of a sudden spotlights start happening and smoke is coming out and sirens are going off, and they have this modified scoring system in the 4th quarter that nobody's out of the game. And I can't even explain to you how that scoring system works. But all of a sudden, the tempo of that game in the 4th quarter, absolutely picked up. All of a sudden, it's a you know a one possession game. Nobody left the arena. They're all going crazy, and I'm thinking this is the coolest thing I've seen. It's kept everybody engaged. Nobody was leaving, and in my head, I'm going, why can't we do this in football? Because the CFL game, I told you I'm on an NFL pension. I think the CFL game itself is tremendously better than the US game. It's faster. It's more wide open. There's more creativity, and at least that was my experience with it. I've said publicly now that I think the CFL is turning in more to bastardized NFL nickel football, and it's dink and dunk. Where when I was up there, we were knifing it down the field, but. So and then my thought process of what I spoke of earlier as to being in pro personnel in both the NFL and the CFL, and the evaluation process. Why can't we do this? Why can't we modify the game, speed it up a little bit, because we want this to be family friendly. We want to be, we don't want to be in stadiums that are really any bigger than about 12,000 people. Okay, some of them might be 15, but that we want it to be cozy. We want the family to feel like this is their home team. We're a part of this thing. We don't want those optics of like when Birmingham was playing last year, and they're in an 80,000 seat stadium and there's 4,500 people. The optics of that are horrendous. We don't want that. We want that coziness. And so, but we also understand that mom and dad are bringing little kids to this game, and their attention span, they don't want to be there for 4 hours. Okay, that's not going to work. So in the fourth quarter, to help out scouts in the Canadian Football League, give these kids an opportunity to play at a faster pace, speed the game up, and give the fans a little different look, we're going to go to modified Canadian Football League rules in the fourth quarter. So the play clock will go from 40 seconds to 20 seconds. That's significant, folks. If you haven't called plays or gotten back to the huddle in half the time than what you're used to, that's a whole different thing. And it's going to be a challenge for the officials also.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're going to have to pick up the pace now. Okay. We're going to go from 4 downs to 3. So now you're really pushing the ball down the field. There's not going to be that, let's run the ball twice right into the heart of the defense, and then maybe on 3rd down, let's see if we can throw it and get a 1st down. You got to be pushing it all the time. Now, some of the biggest differences in the Canadian game are different manners of which you can score points. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners here have heard of the Rouge, the 1-point kick. And we're going to incorporate that. So any ball that is fielded in the end zone, if it is not brought out of the end zone, it's a point for the team that kicked it. All right. As an old offensive coordinator, I always love this one. If you miss a field goal and it goes out of the end zone, but you've missed it, you're still getting a point for that. And as an offensive coordinator, I'm thinking, I just took my crew and we drove all the way down the field to get into this position to score. And we got a guy sitting on the bench that hasn't done anything for 22 minutes. And now he's got to jog out here and we're relying on him. And it lets out down the other 10 guys and really the rest of the team. Yeah. But if you have an opportunity to kick the ball through and still get a point, now at least you've come away with something. And I told you the story last night. In 1992, we're playing the Calgary Stampeders. Doug Flutie, I'm sure you guys have heard that name, was their quarterback. And it was a horrendous weather day in Winnipeg, Manitoba. It was minus 25. It felt like your face was getting sandblasted, but it was little specks of ice. And the wind was just howling. And so it was a very low scoring game for the CFL. It was 16-16. We didn't even line up to try to kick the ball through the uprights because we knew that the way the wind was blowing, if that ball hung up, and in the CFL, the goalposts are in the front of the end zone. If that ball hung up or swayed either direction where they could field it, and most teams would put 3 guys in the end zone to field the ball, they could field that ball, run it out, and we wouldn't get a point. We didn't even try to kick it into the teeth of the wind. We kicked it through the corner of the end zone where nobody could return it, and ended up winning the game 17-16. So it gives a whole nother dynamic to it. Okay, so we're going to have the Rouge. The only difference there will be is we're going to have the NFL kickoff rules throughout the game. It's safer. We only have a 40-man roster. We don't want guys getting blown up now running down on coverage. So if a ball is kicked out of the end zone on a kickoff in the fourth quarter, they're not going to get a point for that. But if it's fielded, if it's fielded and you're in the end zone, you can't just take a knee, because then you'll give up a point.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Now, one of the other things in punting, okay, the punter is live. So once the ball hits the punter's foot, as long as it goes the distance that's required for the first down, the punter's live. He can chase it. So he could pooch it off to the side 12 yards down the field, go after it, and if he falls on it, it's there. They keep possession and keep moving. Now, he has to cross the line of scrimmage in order for him to be live. Otherwise, as soon as he punts it, guys are going to be blowing him up, and we don't want to do that. But if he crosses the line of scrimmage, then he's taking his life in his own hands. So that's another part of it. Also, pardon?
And now, just to clarify, the only person that can recover that to maintain possession is the punter. If the kicking team. Yep. If the kicking team gets it, it's basically they're downing the ball like a normal punt.
Yeah, it's only the punter. In the CFL, you can have up to two guys behind the punter when the ball is punted, and then they're live. We're not going to do that. It'll get too convoluted. We're just going to go with the punter itself. But here's something we're going to do a little bit different. Since we're the Continental League, and originally in the Continental League, there were 3 teams in Canada: Montreal, Toronto, and Victoria Island. And so we've got the Rouge, that's French. Well, we're the Continental League. Let's get a little Spanish in here. So with the punt, if the punter punts the ball and it goes through the uprights, las dos, that's 2 points. Okay, if he punts it through. So if you got a punter that can kick the ball 60, 65 yards, and better than what your place kicker can, then try to have your punter punt it through, and we'll give you 2 points for doing that. Okay, I hope McAfee picks up on that and runs with it.
Yeah, well, he'll have some fun with that.
Yeah. So we're doing that. Now the other thing is no fair catch. Okay, there's no fair catch in the Canadian Football League. You have to have a 5-yard halo around the returner. Okay, so as the ball is in the air and the returner is looking up and fielding the ball, you have to form that 5-yard halo. If you're inside 5 yards, it's a 5-yard penalty. If you run through and nick the returner as he's making the catch, but you're trying to avoid, but you still nick him, that's 15 yards. Now, if some bonehead says, "Oh, I forgot," and goes running through there and blows up the returner, that's 25 yards on top of the 15. So that's a 40-yard penalty. So you better be thinking when you're out there playing, because you might have a punter that only put it out there 33 yards, and your opponent's going to get the ball 7 yards behind where you just kicked the ball from. So you got to have guys thinking about it. So that'll add a little twist to the whole game, and it's going to speed up the game. It's going to give people another opportunity to score, and show some different rules that maybe not everybody has always been exposed to, but it certainly makes the game a lot more exciting.
So 2 others that I want to highlight. One's kind of basic, but the defense has to line up a yard off the ball. It's going to help offenses out in that aspect.
Yep, you have to be 1 yard off the ball. So if the offense is driving and they're getting to the goal line and they got tackled on the 1-inch line, the ball comes back to the
1 yard line.
Right? Yeah, you're not because the defense is a yard off the ball. The other thing is we're going to have unlimited motion. So the end man on the line of scrimmage can move laterally pre-snap. the three that are left in the backfield, and we don't care how you're configured. It could be two backs in one slot, two slots in one back, no backs in three slots. They all can attack the line of scrimmage. And as the teams get acclimated to the rhythm of the cadence and what they're doing, now those receivers are hitting the line of scrimmage right as the ball's getting snapped, and they're full speed. And we found that putting a guy about 7 yards deep was optimal, and then they're going. And so now you're getting really nice releases. So you can set up that defender, you attack his outside shoulder, you're hitting the ground full speed, the ball's snapped, and now you snap it back inside. It really makes for exciting football. And
I would not want to be a defensive back. I would not want to be. I mean, their jobs are hard enough to begin with. Now you got somebody getting that head start while they're standing probably flat-footed or at least got foot fire going. But yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, that you'll see a lot of guys that have gone back and forth from the CFL to the NFL that play corner, because if you can play corner in the CFL, you can play corner just about anywhere. And because those guys are the receivers are going to be moving laterally, and now that corner has to really be on his toes and be able to shadow. And what we used to tell guys coming into camp in the CFL, defensive backs, linebackers, running backs, receivers, is that if you think you're in great football shape, you're not ready to play in the CFL. You better get in basketball shape. And then with the limited roster, when I first went into the CFL, we only dressed 32 players for a game. Then we moved it up to 36. And I can remember us signing guys out of the NFL, and they'd run a go route, and they'd be coming back waving their hand like, okay, put somebody else in for me. There's nobody else to put in for you, dude. Get back in the huddle and run again. And, so I can remember a receiver we had signed out of the Carolina Panthers, and he's the next day after a game, he comes into the meeting room and he slouches down in the chair and he goes, "I don't care what anybody says. This is gladiator football up here." and so it's going to be a good lesson for all these guys to really understand what kind of conditioning they need to be in and how to prepare themselves to be a pro, whether it's NFL or CFL.
So let's go back to the transition from the third quarter to the fourth quarter, the changeover, because the number of downs changes too now. So we're going to 3 downs instead of your traditional four downs. How would that work when it goes over from the third quarter to the fourth quarter?
Well, if you're in the third quarter and you just ran a first down play, then as it transitions into the third, now you have second and third down. You're going to have to punt on third. If it's second down, I've told the coaches this. You might want to think about saving a timeout at the end of the third quarter so you can get that extra down. Okay, and then go from there. If you've run a third down play at the end of the third quarter, going into the fourth, now it's fourth down. You got to decide: are you going to punt, or are you going to go ahead and try to gain the necessary yardage for the first down? So, and then from there out, it's just 3 down football.
But now the question that I had is going from you run a second down play in the third quarter, time expires. Now you're going into the fourth quarter and it's third down.
We'll grandfather that drive for you. Okay, that's a 4 down drive, but then after that, you're in 3.
Yeah, and that's definitely gonna speed up the game in that aspect. And you're talking about the gladiators for the players. My umpires that are out there, and you're spotting that ball, you better be ready to go when it's 20-second play clock. You better be getting that ball, deep wings, triangulate that ball in nice and smoothly. Let's get that ball spotted. Make sure you have a great, not a good, but a great ball person on the sideline to get you a new ball if needed.
The poor ball boys, if you're used to having a 9-year-old out there just kind of flipping balls to you, I would suggest you don't do that. You get a local high school player that really likes football and wants to be involved in it, because you're going to be getting balls in and out like crazy.
But as a high school teacher, make sure they leave their cell phone back in the locker room pregame. Don't bring that thing out on the field because they get easily distracted and 20
No,
seconds goes by
no,
like that.
yeah, no, we can't afford to have guys being distracted while we're doing that.
No, I love the idea. I love all the things about it because it's going to keep butts in the seats till the end of the game.
Yeah,
Even if you've got a lopsided game going into the fourth quarter, because of the speed of the game, team can come back really quick, and it's going to keep the excitement and the energy level there.
yeah. Yeah, and you got that differing ways to score. Now all of a sudden you're chipping away where you don't have that opportunity to chip away in U.S. football. And I've seen a lot of games where there were 3 minutes left to play in the game, teams being down 14, 17 points, and ended up winning the thing, kind of like the UConn Duke game the other night, right? That's kind of like a CFL game. You just never know how it's going to turn, because things can happen so fast that if you're not paying attention to it, you're going to have a problem.
Well, yeah, this is exciting. I'm very much looking forward to seeing everything up and running and going. So it's good stuff.
We're excited about it. And like I said earlier, it's really gratifying. As a leader, you're always thinking that a leader needs to articulate their thoughts and have people be able to accept those thoughts and want to be a part in carrying out that plan. And that's what we're experiencing right now, is that we've had this vision. People are adapting to it. We have Manny would have the numbers better than I would, but I think we've got 6 to 8 cities that are ready to come in for 2027. And I know we had a city in New Jersey that we were ready to go, but their facility got chosen for a practice facility for FIFA and the kickball tournament. And so we got bumped out of that stadium. But they've given us every indication that they want to join in 2027. So we've just got to get this thing off the ground, start playing games. And at one time, you talked about me being at Widener. You talked about me being with the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm also the second guy that Drexel University hired when they started their sport management degree. And so in terms of being involved in the business of sport, this has been so unbelievably interesting to be able to pull this off and have teams now in the Midwest and Texas and and every place else is starting to try to chime in and be a part of this. So it's been really gratifying, a lot of fun, and we're going to get it done.
Awesome. That's great stuff. And if you're in one of those areas, ladies and gentlemen, keep your eye out for the posts for the games. Check it out. Go and support the local towns. Check them out. I'm pretty sure all of the teams at this point, I think, have some type of social media presence out there. So if you're in those Texas areas, or if you're in that Midwest area that we were talking about, go to those sites, take a look at it, hit those like and follow, subscribe buttons, all those fun things too, like you do for this silly podcast, and just see what it's all about. Because I mean, some of the names I've been scrolling through, just seeing the names and seeing the different things that they got going on and the community feel that they got going on. It's a lot of fun.
If you look at the original Continental Football League, Bill Walsh, the outstanding coach with the San Francisco 49ers.
Who's that?
Yeah, exactly. There's people out there that are saying who's that right now. But his first head coaching job was with the San Jose Apaches in the Continental Football League. Kenny Stabler played for the Seattle Continental team before he played for the Oakland Raiders. Otis Sistrunk played in Norfolk before he played for the Raiders. Garo Yepremian was the kicker for the Michigan Arrows before he was with the Miami Dolphins. So, and you can keep going on and on. All these guys that had opportunity that grew out of the Continental Football League and then went into the National Football League or the American Football League at that time. And we want to be able to do the same thing and give these kids an opportunity, but bring pro football to an underserved community. We say we're in Cincinnati, we're in a little suburb outside, that kind of thing is really what's happening. But to bring that local feel, get people involved with it, and have local heroes. I want to see little kids going to elementary and junior high school with a jersey on from their local team, not some fictional fairy tale guy that they only see on Sundays on television. Let's have some real heroes happen.
That's great stuff, Mike. Mike, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule and jumping on tonight. I truly am looking forward to seeing everything that the COFL has going on. Once again, the website is coflfootball.com. So take a look at that. You'll see on there all the different teams. And by the way, you guys got some pretty kick-ass logos too.
Yeah, they're pretty good, aren't they?
Yeah, they're really good. And watching the video and seeing some of the backstories, but how they were brought about, like that Michigan Arrow one, I was just sat there and I had to look at it a couple times. I'm like, oh, hey, yeah, there it is. Yeah, so yeah, good stuff with that.
And we're having the whole site revamped, and hopefully within the next week or two, it'll be even more functional for everybody.
Awesome.
So just keep an eye on us, because we're growing, we're learning every day. We know we don't have all the answers because we don't know all the questions yet, and so it's an adapt and adjust type thing. But we're getting to where we want to be, and we've got good people that are helping us all the way across the board.
That's awesome. Well, nothing but luck or good luck for you guys and for the league, and looking forward to seeing it. So once again, Mike Kelly, appreciate you jumping on tonight, and look forward to the COFL coming soon and coming to a town near you, ladies and gentlemen. Get out there. All right. Have a good night, Mike.
Keep your